Hey there. Oh, well, I decided to do this because otherwise I'll just continue to spoil Austerlitz's finish with more of my personal crap. And I need to get stuff, discussed with someone with nothing, whatever it is that I do, without it just polluting my attempts to play the game and video that. So one of the things that I was discussing in my currently uploading video on Austerlitz is, that I got thrown into this terrible tailspin by a thing that was going wrong. It's never that simple, right? I mean, these are building up and building up. For me to have the kind of collapse that I was having, it just means that, there's a lot of shit piling on top of each other. And whatever the fix is, temporary, always, it also doesn't reset the meter all the way back, right? A lot of the stuff that was very, very wrong is still very, very wrong. It's just that, my life just moves up and moves up and moves up closer and closer to this line where I can't handle anymore. And I don't know if that line moves and grows consistently greater or what. It may actually drop, just from damage to my psyche. But whatever is happening there, the levels of intolerance for the situation as it exists in my life there's no way to drop that all the way down, but there's a way to recuperate a little bit. And with that, there are different ways. They're all avoidant. So, at times, one that doesn't work very well is curling up in a ball and whimpering to myself. And that's one I've tried. But others that seem to help reset the counter. I can go into a binge of reading and just read books or whatever. Certain simpler, lighter games, board games, will work. Sometimes like an 18XX splurge will work. I'm trying to think what else. Used to be I would go for walks. That doesn't really avoid the problem because I end up thinking about it a lot. It doesn't generally tend to solutions, although sometimes, I have to say, sometimes it can trigger all right, I just got to do whatever this is. I just do it, especially where there's a decision involved. So, for example, when I made the decision to go to Phoenix, that took some soul searching, but I was like, well, Phoenix sounds... I've never been in a desert, whatever. And likewise, the decision to come back here. These kind of things, I get stuck in an analysis paralysis loop, just as I would in a game, where I can't solve or come up with the answer. I can understand all the risks. I can understand the situation very well. I can't pull the trigger on any answer, right? And of course that's why I'm alive, because obviously, for many decades I would have died if I could pull the trigger on making decisions like that. Now that's one that I'm like, well, I hate to say it because, I don't sound like it ever, but it's optimism, I think, that keeps me alive. It's magical thinking and foolish hopes that everything that I understand about reality will just magically change. That I won't be miserable most of the time, and that I will at some point or another find a kind of joy and happiness that I've never had. It's not, and when I say a kind, I mean one that persists. Um, but what I seek, I think, is impossible. The only thing that can justify the miseries of existence is like long periods of total euphoria or something, uh, which is yeah, yeah. I really do think that's where it ends up putting me, because anything less than that, the sort of contentment type of existence, that's mainly just an absence of miseries, right? Things are okay enough. Things aren't going to be this good later. I know that. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist in that sense. I know my body is deteriorating. I know my mind is deteriorating. Um, I know that my chances of anything particularly sparking greater interest in whatever just keep decreasing over the years, and my capacity to cope with these things. And it's just a nature. I don't, people say things like, oh, life after 50 is so much better or something. I don't know. Why? Because you made stupid choices like to spawn or something? I don't get it. I really don't. But maybe that is the truth. Maybe maybe you have to put yourself in a position where life is just so much worse that it seems better afterwards. I don't know. But anyway, what this all comes to is one of the ways that I get out of, or that I deal with, cope with, don't cope with, and hide from, however you want to put it, the circumstances of reality, is through video games. Now, it's funny because my dad used to always be really unhappy about me withdrawing into fantasy books or fantasy games, or even the historical games, as in these aren't reality, you're hiding from reality. Yeah, he was right in some ways about that, but what is playing soccer reality? I mean, it, every pastime, everything that one does that isn't focused and directed towards, whatever goals one really has, uh, which are, things like, I don't know, getting my roof cleaned, that are just these fucking maintenance tasks, and work and shit like that. They're just maintenance tasks on the way towards your total decline, and if that's all there is, if that's what reality is, yeah, everybody should want out of it. Everybody should want out of it. Nobody, you know, the grind of existence is not worth whatever little pleasures come from it for, I think, anyone. Um, the pleasures, there may be pleasures that are outside of that are worth it, like, I don't know, discovering a mathematical category of its own, or whatever, a whole new field, or solving certain puzzles that are beyond, that nobody else has dealt with, whatever. Everything else is just kind of these little, here, have a Scooby snack, now keep going, you know. But anyway, um, I don't feel like those withdraw me completely. I never did. Yes, I would, stay home from school and play games, but it wasn't that like that relieved me of the pain and suffering of the knowledge of what I was doing and whatever. What does though is video games. Video games and maybe movies, maybe watching even news, whatever. Multimedia type, various media effects are able to just pull you in so much, and reading does too. I'll have to say, but very few games on my own do. My mind is still working too much. Um, but the video games are particularly powerful on me because they combine this large amount of input that I have to cope with and process, and then the actual processing and thinking. And work does the same thing, by the way. I get large amounts of input that I have to process and do tasks mentally, and my mind just cannot be focused on those things that are really the miseries. Those things that need to get done, but they're the miseries, right? Um, but video games do the same thing for me, and quite often, ever since I've been, working real sort of professional jobs, where my mind does actually get used, I found that during periods where I wasn't working, like I got a week or two off, around Christmas time because I left too many holiday days or whatever. I've got this, I've got that. I would find myself falling into a sort of a depression and then just nothing, just hide from everything, rather than use that time to be particularly productive or anything. And now, of course, unemployed as I am, I've been in that position for longer than I've been in it for quite a while. About a decade or so, I was unemployed for, I don't know, over 6 months, I think. And really looked at, I'll never get a job, I mean, I'll just not be able to do so. I don't know what's going to happen, Back then, I didn't know what was going to happen in my life. I didn't know how the hell I was going to manage anything, but I was just having a really, really hard time. Now it should be easier with the extent of the experience and the length of time I have in it. But honestly, there aren't that many things that are in my direct field. And you go a little adjacent to it, and it gets a little bit harder. Plus, I am a shitty ass interviewee. Uh, I, you know, I come across as I come across, and that ain't too hot. But on the bright side, as I've said before, I probably can survive the rest of my life off of what I have, especially if I don't undertake, getting another pet or anything, by which I mean of the human variety. But, someone that I basically have to support. But, yeah, anyhow, the my latest tailspin threw me into. Here's the thing: it's a build-up, and it was already happening. There was just this breach where it was like, "Fuck it, that's it," you know. And the thing that got cast aside was really my board gaming, because I actually ended up doing the tasks that I needed to get myself on unemployment, and I ended up, doing the tasks that I need to do to try to keep employment, keep my employment search going, which is a prerequisite anyway. And in a way, maybe it is helping. I don't know. it certainly, something had to break, and the thing that broke was the board gaming for a while. The fever, but what it instilled was I switched from playing, maybe 4 hours of my computer baseball stuff that I was doing, to picking up what I call browser games. In this case, it wasn't even a browser game. It requires a download and whatever, and it's fuck, now I can't remember, like Raid Shadow Legends or something. What it is really sort of I don't know if it was the first, but it's sort of the prototype in terms of the most successful of a whole series of things that I've generally tended to pick up and play. And I've always been kind of either embarrassed about them, especially if they were like based on adult content, or or just, hey, nobody wants to know about these. They're just, like people would ask, hey, what game are you so addicted to and everything. And I'd be like, I don't know, because they're fucking stupid games, in my opinion. They don't provide any of the stuff that I sort of really kind of like about computer games. Like, I like sort of the building aspects of Civ type games and stuff like that, and I can understand enjoying those. I love the immersive aspect of the good role playing, especially the action role playing type stuff. The Witcher being an extreme example. There are many that are kind of like that. The ones that are more tactical on the role playing, very few of them. The old Fallouts were good, but for the most part, something has to convince me very, very clearly on those that I want to do them. And unfortunately, when I play the ones, so, something like the old Fallout, that uses the same kind of tactical combat system, or even a simpler one like the old King's Quests and stuff like that, which this Shadow Raid is very much like, in terms of the combat. It's just like, what are you attacking? What are you attacking? But all of those other games, they're all pay to play. Well, they're all free to play, but you got to pay to do well or whatever. All of those kind of bring you in. They give you a nice dose of like a lot of decision making early on, but after maybe a day or two, they pass. Because at this point, hey, you hooked? You willing to pay money to keep playing at this level? And the answer is no. And what usually happens for me is then I end up playing, maybe an hour a day or something, whatever the free-to-play level is. And then eventually it just kind of, I put it aside and say, I don't care anymore. I was playing one that wasn't at all that way. It was just go in and do some maintenance stuff on the game and leave. And that was actually eating up too much time, and there was just nothing to it. It was completely brain dead. But when I started with this one, I didn't realize how different their model would be. So it's the same core model, but boy, do they hit you with lots of goodies for a long time. And basically they gave me enough of sort of the rolling, hey, you want to keep playing? You want to keep playing? And that, they ate a week of mine. And I'm talking, pretty much every waking hour they were taking from me. And I'm still playing it. It started to slow down. I can't just play continuously. But I don't know which model is a better choice, right? Um, it seems to me that either model kind of works. Uh, they've given me more time to be hooked on it, but I highly doubt that I'm going to actually toss any cash into the game. For one thing, their cash, and this goes across the board with these things, the amount of cash that they want for what you get out of it just seems exceedingly, I mean, it just seems like they're asking way too much money for, hey, you want to be able to play this a little bit more like if you bought a real game, and it's very, very, it's like sort of minimal advantages, like an extra character to use or something, and goods to boost them and whatever. The cost for that is approximately the same as what I'd pay for the most expensive games that I buy. Now, I get everything, really cheap, so take that as you will. Yeah, but we're not talking $2 or $3 here. We're talking in the 15 to $20 range or more. And then, none of this stuff's going to make you a god in the game. It's just something, an additional little edge or whatever in the competitions each time. And I guess for people with tons of money who are completionists or something, this might be appealing, but I look at it and I say, Jesus, this is just obscene. How could I possibly? Now, I think last year, late in the year, and I mean, I was in a particularly troubled spot. I think I did spend maybe $20 or so on one of these games for no great reason. Um, Now, if you compare it to, I mean, there's the other kind. There's the other model that can generate buku bucks, which is the subscription model. I was playing the Knights of the Old Republic stuff. I don't remember what it is, but there's a big MMORPG or whatever, which doesn't feel I don't know, computer RPGs don't feel like RPGs. They're solo dungeons usually. And it's something really weird to put that solo dungeon mentality into a multiplayer type thing where you get together and you fight in a raid together or whatever, and otherwise you're just kind of blundering around near each other and vaguely helping each other, but whatever. Anyway, that was a very, very strong one of these more bugs, but it lets you play for free through several different character classes, up to a level at which most games that you'd be buying in each of the single character class progressions, most games that you'd be buying are about the same size as what you're getting for free, and you get it 8 times over or something like that. I don't know. And there's some duplication though, so it's like, well, playing the same classes isn't very interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly quite a bit of free content available on such a game, and I found others that were kind of like that. Unfortunately, most of them, the storylines aren't very good. I found the storyline in this in the Knights of the Old Republic was actually pretty solid. I felt like I was actually doing doing as much stuff as I would in a moderately level RPG that I'd be playing just on my machine. But these games, what's weird about the ones that I've been, you know, talking about, like the Raid Shadow Legends, is that there isn't a whole hell of a lot. First of all, there's no immersion really. Um, you get to watch some arena fights, and you get to watch these little fights and stuff. But it's like those King's Quest type games. It's just point and click, point and click. You're not in the shoes of the character. There's not a whole hell of a lot of strategy or tactics available in the combat. You know, you look for the weak guy that you can hit the bestest with the mostest. You try to balance your attacks, your attack groups to face the right sets of creatures and whatnot. There is a little bit of mental mechanical type stuff. I'm not thrilled with mental mechanical stuff, but this kind of reminds me of my baseball game where I have to try to, craft a team that works, if under a certain cash limit or whatever, in terms of optimizing your progressions with all the different characters you have. And you have to sacrifice characters to improve characters, and you have to improve them to make them worth sacrificing to improve. And it's just, there's this whole build pyramid that you have to utilize. And, you're trying to target to get, I don't know what, to get your challenges, to meet your challenges that are fed to you by the system, and then to also be able to do well in the player versus player championship pits or whatever, and to help your clan out the most and stuff like that, by, basically just fighting solo challenges against it. For me, there's nothing to recommend the game. However, the way it plays is completely addictive to me. If there was not a timer on, if these things didn't run out, if you could just play them continuously, I guess I would eventually get bored. But like I said, this one ate up a week for me. Now, in a way, that eating up a week makes sense because whatever you do, like, if your energy is over full, you're wasting points in a sense. Like, if you can drain all your energy down to zero, you build up energy over time. But if you stay above your maximum, your energy level cap, you no longer produce additional energy, and thus can't, you're sort of wasting stuff you could be doing. Of course, somehow my own time doesn't come into this at all, but I'm not sure. I mean, my own time may be just trying to blot out the reality of existence anyhow. I mean, given the things that I do with my life, it seems to be the case. So, in a sense, the whole model of you can't just play continuously makes you want to play more of it. At least for me, I think that's one of the triggers for the addictive nature. And this particular one, the graphics are really nicely done, for whatever that matters. The game seems to provide, but the biggest thing was that the game provides you so much free at the beginning that, like, I don't know. I mean, it may have worn me out to the extent that I can't play it anymore. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm beginning to feel that. Like, I was stumbling out after playing and just like almost missed dancing this week because of it. It just it takes over to an extent that, like, it may be too much, and the knowledge that it may be too much is enough to stop it from taking over. And it's this kind of dichotomy, that just sort of hits you. Most of them I do keep playing for months afterwards, sometimes years. Uh, some things very much like this that I just kept playing and playing. And you unwrap your free packages and stuff every day. You get all your bonuses and everything. And it comes down to not playing a hell of a lot, but playing it over a long, long period of time. And then somehow you see something and you're like, oh, that would be really cool if I bought that. And then if you're me, you're like, well, no, I'm not going to pay that kind of money for that until you hit, well, it's fucking Christmas and I want to die anyway, so screw it. One month in my life, I made some extreme purchases. I fear. It's where the sex doll came in too. But yeah, this coming out of it now to some extent, where it's no longer just feeding me the free shit anymore. Like, there's long periods of the day where I'm not going to be able to play, and just wipe everything away. I don't know if this is going to take root as strongly as the ones that had me playing, that gave me less playtime up front, essentially, in terms of just all the content. Um, and by content, I'm not talking about anything that's really exciting to look at or see. What it is these new challenges to meet, each of which gives you stuff that perpetuates your ability to keep playing. And that's the big way this one feeds you, is it just gives you more and more energy each challenge you meet. And I'm just like wired to try to complete these challenges, and they give me more stuff and they give me more energy, and I just keep playing and playing, playing, playing. Better would be to understand that fully and kind of sit back and only claim your rewards when you actually want them. I'm not that smart. I could have played exactly the amount that I'd want to for a very long time doing that, but instead I just dive in as hard as fucking possible, which meant, getting like 2 hours of sleep, getting up, playing some, going back to sleep, shit like that. It really took to dominating my life, and it's a scary thing. Um, One thing that it has is these stupid little these little links that you can give, and if anybody's interested, I can give one. You start off with more shit, but you always want to start with some kind of bonus, and one of the ways to get the bonus is these links that connect to you, and there are also websites and stuff that give you it as an advertising bonus, which probably is a better deal for the people getting it because they get actual money or something. But if anybody wants one, I can throw it to you. You get some bonus goodies, and I get some bonus goodies too. They give you like 3 a day, so yeah, I can hook people up with that if they want it. But again, there's not much I can do to justify playing these things. And again, how much is there to justify playing any games or for anything that one does in life? Oh well. Cheers.